Hello, and welcome to This is USG, a video podcast by the universities at Shady Grove. 9 universities, 1 campus, great results. I'm Ann Khademian, Executive Director at the universities at Shady Grove. When a personal educational journey is shared with others, it can be a powerful story with the capacity to impact the lives of young people considering their own pathways to higher education and beyond. The student ambassadors at USG support efforts to recruit prospective students to the academic programs at USG, in part through sharing their own educational experience at USG. Ambassadors represent USG at various events. They lead tours on campus during normal times and through an amazing new virtual tour that they made during remote services this year. They meet with community leaders, they promote USG, they support a range of special activities, and most importantly, they help to build a vibrant community at USG. Tonight, we are fortunate to have 3 of our current USG ambassadors join us to showcase the important role of student ambassadors at USG, and especially how they adapted to remote services this year in the face of COVID-19. We're also fortunate to have the supervisor of the ambassador program. Let me introduce them each. First, I'd like to welcome Julia Francis, a student enrolled with the University of Maryland in the Public Health Science program. Welcome, Julia.
Hello.
Ed Love Leslie Aidoo is a student enrolled with the University of Maryland in the marketing program. Welcome, Ed Love.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to be here.
Francheska Pineda is a student enrolled with UMBC in the psychology program. Welcome, Francheska.
Hello, thank you.
And Jennifer Reel is a supervisor to the ambassador program and a senior recruitment coordinator at USG. Jen, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thanks to everybody. It's great to have you all here, and I'm excited for everyone to learn more about the ambassador program. What an amazing program it is. I'm going to start by asking each of you to just tell your story a little bit. Tell a little bit about how you came to be an ambassador and what it means for you during your experience here at USG. Maybe Francheska, you can start for us.
Yes, so I came to USG not too long ago, actually. But I started off at Montgomery College after graduating from Gaithersburg High School. I was a general studies major there, and then I decided to follow the psychology track under UMBC. So then I transferred here, and I've been loving it ever since I got here. As for why I picked being in the ambassador program, I really wanted to start getting involved here, especially since we only have 2 years here roughly. So I really wanted to get involved, and I had a friend who was in the program actually, and she loved it. So I really wanted to be part of that experience and have my own experience here.
Fantastic. We're so glad you did. That's great. Julia, what about you?
So in 2019, I received my associate's degree from Montgomery College. But while I was at Montgomery College, my last year, I was actually an ACES ambassador. So I went around telling people about the ACES program and about Montgomery College. And I actually met Jen, which is our supervisor for the USG ambassadors, at an ACES event. And my ACES mentor actually was like, "Oh, Jen's amazing. You'd be happy to work with her." So I was like, and she basically sold the USG ambassador program to me. So I decided when I transferred to USG, I was going to join the ambassador program. And so I did. And it's been the best experience ever.
That's great. Julie, I'm going to ask, can you say a little bit more about ACES? Some people in our audience may not know what ACES is.
So ACES is Achieving Collegiate Success and Achieving Collegiate Excellence and Success. And it's basically a program that you join your sophomore year of high school, and you get mentorship and support throughout your entire college experience. And ACES actually has a pathway from MCPS to Montgomery College to USG. So ever since I joined my sophomore year, I've actually had a mentor in high school at Montgomery College, and I have a mentor now at USG. And overall, each step of the way, they focus on different aspects of success. So getting into college, figuring out what career you want to join, or what major would be best suited for you. And now that I'm graduating college, they actually focus on career development. So working my resumes, elevator pitches, like how do I sell myself to employers, and how can I succeed in the workforce.
Awesome. That's a great overview of the ACES program. Thanks so much, Julia. That's great. Ed Love, what about you?
Sure. So, unlike Julia and Francesca, I went to a foreign high school, to specific in Ghana. And right after my high school, I relocated to United States, where I attended Montgomery College and completed my associate. Just like Julia, I also, whilst I was at MC, I had the opportunity to go for a talk at the USG campus where I met Jen and a couple of old ambassadors who actually sold USG to me. And I was like, oh, this is a great program and a great institution for me. So I decided to join, USG as a community as well as the Shady Grove Student Ambassador Program. So yeah.
That's great. Thanks so much, Ed Love. Jen, maybe you could tell us a bit about the program itself and, its history. Like, how did it come to be? And, what are some of the goals of the program as well?
Absolutely. So since all these students say they've met me and I'm just like a figure there at USG, I've actually been at USG for over 8 years. So a lot of ambassadors have gone through and met me at various times, I guess. But when I started at USG 8 years ago, there was already an ambassador program. But I inherited about 5 ambassadors. So I had to quickly grow it dramatically. I think I started the week I started at USG in my role. It was a month out from our first big open house on campus event. And I said, how do you do this with 5 ambassadors and me that's never been here before? So I quickly hired a whole bunch of students and said, we're going to learn this together. But within those 8 years, I really feel like we have developed something. And I say we because I have changed the program based upon the feedback of the members throughout. And so I hope that they feel that I'm always giving them a chance to share their feedback and learning from them what works, what doesn't. And I am really proud of where the program is now. There's so much more leadership within the program. Actually, all 3 of the ambassadors today hold leadership roles within the ambassador program, which is a leadership position in and of itself, and have really just expanded the reach of what they can do beyond just kind of being hired and you're being a parrot and you're just talking about USG, what I'm telling you to say. They're really creating the program for themselves. And so I always like to joke, I'm the senior recruiter. I often say, well, I'm the only recruiter because we have such a small team, but that's wrong. We have 20 to 25 wonderful students in red polos at any given time who if they didn't exist, I would not be able to do my job. And like you said, and students want to hear from other students. They don't want to hear from me. I personally grew up in Montgomery County Public Schools. I went to Wooten High School. And then when I tell students I graduated in 1998, they blink and they're like, huh, you're not relevant. So I'm really appreciative of the student ambassadors who can share a story that really resonates with the prospective students. And that's, again, I think it will continue to change. Obviously, in the last year, we had to change it again quite a bit. I'm sure we'll talk about that. But I wouldn't have been able to make that change without their feedback and input either. And especially, again, the 3 ambassadors we have today are seniors, and they were critical because they were there before COVID and they're now still an ambassador, thank goodness, after as well.
Yeah, that's such a great story, Jen. And, the emphasis on how the ambassadors are kind of driving the program and defining kind of areas of growth and change as well. That's really exciting. I think what has stood out for me in meeting the ambassadors over the 6 months that I've been here is the emphasis on leadership and responsibility that the ambassadors all take. I'm wondering if you all can share with me a little bit about what it means to you personally to be an ambassador. What is it meant for you to be an ambassador? How have you seen yourself grown or change as an ambassador? Anybody who wants to start would be great.
Great. I guess I'm gonna start. So before I went to USG, I was very involved at MC. However, I never took any leadership roles because personally, I used to see myself as an introvert. My communication skills wasn't necessarily great. So when I joined the ambassadorship program at USG, I told myself I was going to, develop a strong communication skills. build my leadership roles and, be a better person overall. And I couldn't tell you how grateful I am for the, ambassadorship program, because now I can talk to like a whole group of people without panicking as I'm doing now. I wouldn't have been able to do it. And through the, ambassadorship program, I have been able to gain like this wonderful opportunities that I would have never gotten. So I actually spoke to a couple of students at Montgomery College to specific the Future Link program. And through that, even though I was participating and they actually see my growth, I was able to get like an internship. And that is just amazing. And that will forever be, one of the great experiences I have, had and achieved as part of being, a student ambassador for USG. So, yeah.
That's a great story. Thanks. Who would like to go next?
For me, like, what does being an ambassador mean is really being that liaison for informing prospective students and those in the community, especially on how USG can offer everything we're looking for. I know myself included. I know I've met many individuals like during events that, they bring up financial issues or any finance or family commitments that they may have. And once they hear about USG and how, many of these things can be resolved, they get really excited. And I mean, that was one of the main things I got very excited for when I learned about USG, knowing that, I can continue my education after Montgomery College. So really just informing the community is one of the main things for being an ambassador for me.
That's great. Yeah. Julia, what about you?
So I totally agree with like Edla and Francesca. Like at first, like even though I was an ACES ambassador, I was still like very like conservative and all that stuff. And I didn't really like talk much, especially when it came on to presentational speaking. But then like now, like even though I still get nervous, like I'm not afraid to like raise my hand and like volunteer to like do a presentation or like go out and speak to like say like 100 high school students. Like now I'm like, even though I still get nervous, like I'm not afraid to like share my experience. And I think that there's like something like I just feel like good when I'm like telling people like, oh, like even though you go through this, like USG could help you, and there is like so many benefits of attending that campus. And then also not only educating the public and prospective students about USG, but also like selling USG's importance to like Montgomery County. I find that very like fulfilling. And then also I think like the ambassador programs definitely developed my communication skills, because we're not just talking about talking to high school students, and we're not just talking to community members. You also have to talk to like college students, executives, and everyone else has like everyone has a different like goal or intention related to USG. So it's like you not only have to answer their questions, but you also have to ask them questions and figure out a way to actually sell USG, and like what can I say to like convince them why USG is important and how USG can benefit them.
That's interesting, Julia. I'm hearing kind of problem solving. Like you're on the spot, you're engaged with people, you're speaking publicly, but you've got to problem solve. You got to figure things out on the spot there. And Edlib, I was really excited to hear how you emphasize that you set some goals for yourself that you wanted to achieve when you came into this program, and you saw those realized in this program, and that's very cool. And Francesca, I really loved hearing the way you thought about that. What really gives you pleasure in all this is reaching out to the community and sharing the story and communicating that. So really interesting, different perspectives and different experiences, takeaways, but all really exciting. So tell me about COVID. Tell me about being an ambassador during the pandemic when everybody has had to pivot, everybody is virtual. The experience must be so different. Plus, you have your own challenges of being a student remotely, maybe working from home. Home is not always the easiest place to take classes from and to do our work. Tell me what that has been like for you. How have you managed to be ambassadors during the time of COVID-19 when everything is virtual? What has that been like? Anybody?
I know for me, COVID has actually like benefited me as an ambassador, because I'm able to like commit to more events. And then also like I usually would have to like worry about travel time, but now like if my class ends at 4:30, like I could be on a Zoom call at 4:35. So that's really benefited me. And also because I'm like home, there's some feeling of like comfort. So I'm like more comfortable like sharing my experiences and also like just like relating to other people. It's like we're all in the same situation. So it's like I could tell you this is how I benefited or this is what I'm doing now to get me through COVID. So that really like helps them to connect, especially connecting with prospective students, because many students might be wondering, why should I continue at college if this is what I'm going to be doing?
It's a great perspective. Francesca, what about you?
Yes, as a student, it was a little bit difficult at first. Now I feel like it's just been normalized for me, a little bit used to it. As for the ambassador program, I do miss being in person and really communicating with individuals, just building that rapport. Also, seeing their body language when I'm informing them about USG, seeing like maybe if I'm saying something that's a little bit confusing, I can visibly see, oh, maybe I should reword it. But being online, sometimes their cameras are off or, I just see their face. So it can be a little bit more difficult that way. So, but I've definitely learned to be a little bit more clear now that we're online. But it's been fun. I feel like the program has transferred really nicely on the online format, pretty effortlessly. So that part's been really nice. And I mean, we still have so many events. It's still the same people. We do have new ambassadors, so it's been really nice. I still feel connected to all the other ambassadors in the program.
That's great. Ed Love, what about you?
Yeah, I guess they've said, most of the things, but I'm still going to add into it. The difference is really big because us in person, you used to talk to them. And my favorite thing about the ambassadorship program was that I used to give talks. So it was just amazing how you're able to convince someone in person about how wonderful Shady Grove is. And you can tell the smile, or you can tell if they actually convinced. And it gives you that sense of fulfillment that you've achieved something. However, being online, I mean, going virtual, the experience is still there. You get to meet someone, virtually, and you're like, oh, I met you in person. I was like, really? You did? It kind of like gives you, oh, okay, so someone is still paying attention. You're still making an impact. And then you meet them in classes. Actually met one person, Cynthia Martinez. She's currently one of my marketing classes. I actually gave her like a virtual. She was at one of these virtual events, and I wasn't surprised, but I was excited to see her as a USG student, and it still gives you the sense that you're doing something, and it's impactful. So yeah, the experiences is kind of like different, but the impact is still the same for me. So yeah.
Awesome. That's great. Jen, I have seen the video that this group of student leaders made, the virtual tour of USG, that's just so impressive. Maybe you can tell us a little about that process and how did you all come to think about doing a virtual video tour of USG?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think that these three ladies spoke a lot to the fact of they still wanted to have the impact, but we had to create new ways to have that impact. And we all know that when students or community members see our campus physically, there's just something additional that really sells them. And so we can talk about it and they may still leave thinking, oh, it's just a building. And so there was a lot of desire to how can we show this? And at first, the ask that I made right after COVID was, can I come to campus with a mask and film a student? And absolutely not, which is the right call because safety wise, we didn't want to do that. But over the summer, I was able to follow safety protocol and get some photos throughout campus. And I worked with so we have a position when an ambassador typically has been in the program for 4 semesters and either goes on to graduate graduate school or stays maybe finishing an undergraduate degree, they've been able to become a senior ambassador. And so we had a recently graduated ambassador this past December, Zoe Senzel, who was our senior ambassador, also a communication major. And so that was one of the projects that she and I had discussed together. And then she was kind of helping I mentioned we have a lot of internal leadership roles. So we have our social media team, which also was comprised of some of our communication major students. And so actually one of our new ambassadors, but a student who'd actually physically been to our campus prior. So she's a senior this year, Alyssa Barrios, agreed to help with her knowledge of the technology. So honestly, I was fairly hands-off. The script comes from both myself and our ambassadors tweaking it, especially our tour trainer ambassadors. Julia and Francesca are two of our tour trainers, if you will, and they were to be real tour trainers, but then tour became in quotes. And so with their feedback and kind of figuring out the script as to what that's going to look like and what are the things that really matter to talk about in this and what are the things that won't translate well to a photo, putting that together with Zoe's kind of stamp on that and her knowledge of the program, and then making sure we had ambassador representation from different universities and different majors, and giving them parts. And I was honestly really hands-off during that. The ambassadors did fabulous. You'll notice that Francheska is one of our featured ambassadors. And so I gave some feedback, but honestly, I would not have been able to put that together myself at all. So the credit goes to the students, and even the students who weren't featured in the video or didn't work behind the scenes on this video, their input in terms of giving the tour and in terms of what they say is there. You can see that reflected in what is being said, and their views, I believe, are reflected in the views of the students that shared their personal experiences on the video as well.
And what a great project. It's a great video, and you really do feel that you're on campus there as well. I love it that there's so much talent across all the ambassadors to be able to pull off a whole video like that, an incredible talent group. And I also just love hearing how, these were really challenging times, but you all found the way to grow during this time. You all found the way to, take some positive experience from what has been a really pressing, difficult time. So that's really impressive to see that, and what a resilient, forward-leaning generation you all represent. That's fantastic. So, you engage a lot with prospective students, and I'm wondering, what are you learning about prospective students, especially coming out of COVID, after this time of virtual learning? What is this next generation of this next incoming cohort, if you will, of prospective students, or even kind of down the pipeline a ways, down the pathway a ways, students that you might talk to in their early years in high school? What kind of insights are you gleaning about the next group of students coming through USG? Anybody?
So, speaking to like a bunch of prospective students, I realized that financial question is actually one of the top questions I get when I speak to prospective students. I feel like everyone is actually being conscious now. Initially, people weren't necessarily concerned because there was something called like student loans. So you're like, oh, I could get student loans. But now that people are actually seeing the impact of student loans and some of the effects, people are trying to get an affordable education. So when you speak to them about the opportunities that Shady Grove and how they can actually they might even be they might be likely to not even pay any tuition. I use myself as an example. So as a student at Shady Grove, I haven't paid anything out of pocket since I began, and this is my last semester. So when you talk to people and you share this testimony and then you let them know that, okay, so you don't necessarily have to graduate with like 60,000 student debt. You can actually go to Shady Grove, get the same degree, and then still not pay anything, So financial concerns normally comes up when I do talk to them, and then being able to assure them that there is a possibility that you might reduce your financial cost by attending Shady Grove. just why. So yeah, so this is a little, my overview. So
Yeah, that's great. That's really good insight. Julia, what do you think? What have you learned about the prospective students?
So one thing I've learned like two things. The first thing is they're all like different individuals. So like you might talk about the cost savings for one person and that probably wouldn't like transfer over to another person, even though you're speaking to the same group of people. It might be a group of high schoolers or a group of college students. So it's like you definitely have to hear like their side of the story, like what they're looking for. But I would say what I've like picked up from like my recent events, like students are very interested in like the entire like college experience. So like anyone could go to like a college and earn a degree, but it's like, do you want to go to somewhere that's going to support you and you're going to still have the opportunity to student life, or are you just going to show up to class every day and go home? And just telling people about like the benefits and the support that USG offers, I could tell that they're more interested in that. So on top of the cost savings, like knowing that you have that one-on-one like academic support or that career support, and then you could also actually have the opportunity to talk to your professors, and the professors have the opportunity to actually get to know you. Like they're very interested in that, especially like when it comes on to gaining like internship and like gaining skills. Like they don't want to just be like another person, because like it's college. Like you need to like actually know the things to translate it into the work world. So it's not just earning a piece of paper. And I think they've like they've like realized that, and they want to be more hands-on, especially like learning, especially if you're doing like art or like graphic design or computers. Like you actually want to be hands-on, and you just don't want to sit in a class and read like a PowerPoint for an hour. So they're definitely more interested in the entire college experience. So like telling them about USG, and then knowing that even outside of class you have the opportunity to learn and engage with other students and even learn more. Like I think that does really like interest them.
Interesting. So, not interested in being all virtual all the time, right? There's a real interest in some in-person engagement and the hands-on learning. Very interesting. Francesca, what kind of insights have you gleaned from your experience talking with prospective students?
I would say that more is better, and also just how ambitious they are. Sometimes, even myself, in many different situations, we don't know what questions to ask. Or sometimes, again, I've been in a situation where someone explains something to me, but I may not fully understand it, but I'll be like, oh, okay. So really just like emphasizing many key factors, like the degree is the same, professor's curriculum, certain things like that that we really want them to know, just like repeating them over and over again and just plugging it in slowly while you're talking to them. And again, just catching those cues when, they may look a little confused, just like trying to reword it. And they're just very ambitious. I mean, I really like the events where it's like program specific, for example, and where I'm in a breakout room with psychology students. And so I'm able to tell them about some opportunities in the program, such as like specialties and so on. And they get very excited. And it's things that they look forward to then come to USG, and they'll remember it and they'll be like, oh, maybe I should talk to my program director about this, as somebody mentioned. So just little things like that.
That's great. So I'm going to ask you all to share your elevator pitch with us, right? So one or two of you mentioned that you kind of learned to give an elevator pitch. So when you're talking to prospective students, right, and you're talking to these students, what do you say about USG, or what is the sentence or two that that you think captures what USG is all about, and that you think is that kind of draws the attention or interest of a prospective student? Who wants to share first? Don't be shy, everyone. Ed Love, you laughed, so you're going to go first.
Yes. So I normally start with an introduction of myself, and then I just go by saying, we are the University of Maryland. University of Shady Grove. We are located in the Rockville area, so they know that it's in the Rockville area, Montgomery County. And then I talk about we offer select undergrad and grad courses from 9 different institutions. So that way they know that there are actually 9 different institutions, so they can actually come in. And then also too, you have to emphasize that we are not a university. I mean, we are we are not a specific institution or like place that you can have, an onboarding fees and what have you not. We just, have to emphasize that we are just a campus so people understand the difference between them. And pretty much, I don't want to say everything, so everyone can have something to say, but basically, I gave them that little background of what the USG campus is. So, yeah.
That's great. Julia or Francesca, what kind of elevator pitch do you give?
So for me, well, as Edlop said, we usually introduce ourselves. So I'd be like, I'm a student studying public health science with the University of Maryland College Park at the universities at Shady Grove. And I'm here to tell you about USG, or the universities at Shady Grove. And then we'll go into, and I kind of like memorized the entire tour script. So like, depending on how like detailed I want to be, I could go through every single step as if it was in person. But for overall, we'll just mention that, there's select degrees from 9 Maryland universities. It's the same curriculum, the same degree, the same professors. And at the end of the day, it won't even, your degree won't even mention like USG on it. It would just say the university that you're graduating from. And then I would also definitely highlight the double the scholarship opportunities. So you could earn you could receive scholarships from both your main campus and from USG. And then especially being an AC student, you actually have triple the scholarship opportunities. And then I would also highlight a few features from the each services. So like the career services, I would like offer they offer resume writing. They will help you with your cover letter. I would also say for like the academic services, they would help you writing your essays or even your personal statements for grad school. And then we also have like the counseling center, and we also have like a gym. So I would make sure to highlight like every single feature or like physical feature of USG that would be like important for students. And then depending on the crowd, or depending on the like what type of prospective student, whether it's high school or college, I might emphasize like certain things. So like for instance, for Montgomery College, if you're a Montgomery College student, I'll also mention like TAP and go into more detail than I would with a high school student. And I'll also like mention ACEs for both the high school and Montgomery College students.
Great. And Francesca, what about you? What's your elevator pitch?
I would say it's pretty similar to Edlove and Julia. The script is very detailed and memorized. I think the only two other things I do really emphasize are the application process, because you're not applying to USG, you're applying to the university that you're applying to, and we just have that program. I also really emphasize the full service part, just so they know, like, we have everything here at USG. You don't physically have to go up to your main campus. And that degree, those are the main three things, apart than what Edlove and Julia just mentioned.
That's great. So Jen, are they hitting all the highlights?
I think they are. They all laughed, and I'm pretty sure that was nervous laughter, because part of the training to be an ambassador is that you do the what, how, why USG. So in their heads, I know they would do it naturally with a student, but I'm sure they were like, oh no, our supervisor's here. Am I saying the how right? Am I saying this? So collectively, it was it was all there. And obviously mentioning that we're a transfer only campus, again, like Julia said, depending on the audience, we often work with undergraduates. So that's something that we talk about a lot as well. And I think the small classes are the other things. And I know without a doubt, these three students definitely talk about the small classes. So I think there was a little bit of, oh no, is she judging me going on there? But yeah, they're great. And they definitely touched on the points that students want to hear.
It is a really complicated kind of, it's an amazing, wonderful place, but it's layered, right? And
Oh, yeah.
I think the specialness of it is matched a little bit by the complexity of it as well. And yet, I think you all do such a wonderful job of conveying what a special place this is. And I think we're learning from all of you how to message that more strongly to more and more students all the time. So thank you for all of that. I'm going to ask you all one more question, then we'll go to a wrap up. I wonder what kind of advice, given your own educational experience, what kind of advice would you give to an incoming junior at USG right now? What would you tell them, kind of the best piece of insight or guidance that you could offer them based upon your own experience? Francheska, maybe you could start.
If we're on campus, I would really recommend them looking at the bulletin boards on campus. That's a lot of the areas that I was able to see opportunities on campus. But also just really getting involved with your professors and your program directors, really connecting with them, visit them during office hours. They're amazing people and they know so much about the field that you're going into. And truly just joining organizations that we have on campus, whether it's program specific or a hobby. It's really helpful. You meet new people. It's a lot of fun. College is what you make it.
That's awesome. That's great. Julie, what about you? What kind of advice would you give an incoming junior?
Well, Francesca kind of covered a lot, but I would definitely say like being engaged and also utilizing the services that are offered, especially since almost all the services are free. So definitely, because I know like every single time, like I've probably gone to the career center at least 5 times since the school year started, and every single time I learned something new. And the same thing with the academic service. Like every single time I go to Adam, which is one of our academic coaches, I learned something new. Even though I'm still working on the same paper, it's something new every single time. So it's like it can't hurt to like explore the services. And so whether or not you think you need it, like just going and learning from the coaches is very helpful.
That's great. Ed Love, what about you? What kind of insight do you have for an incoming junior?
So I think one advice that was passed on to me that I would share with anyone is don't be just the USG student. Be that USG student. Read your emails because there are a lot of hidden treasures in your emails that you might not know. There are like, internship opening, there are events that can actually help you develop, professionally as well as personally. So just go beyond that regular student, get involved, as Francesca and Julia said. You never know. There are like opportunities. It could be, way after, you're done with USG, you can build recommendation letters by getting to know people. You can actually get like scholarships. You can get opportunities, just a referral for like one big time project that might be the best project of your entire life. So you never know. Just go that extra mile and then just be that student, not that student. So yeah.
That USG student. I love it. So I'm going to ask everyone one last question to share a reflection. What are you going to do after graduation? What are your plans? I know you don't necessarily have everything all figured out, and you may still be thinking, but even if you're thinking a few years down the road, what are you thinking about? Ed Love, maybe you can start this time.
Yeah. So I'm currently in the +1 program. So the +1 program is a program for University of Maryland College Park students, where qualified undergrad students can actually begin their grad classes. So I am actually a grad student. Technically, I'm a grad student. So I will be continuing into the supply chain management as a full-time grad student. So that is my main plan for now. So yeah.
Excellent. Well, supply chain management is a really important area right now. So I'm sure, look at how much we've learned about supply chains throughout the pandemic and how vital they are. And if something goes wrong, what kind of problems we have. So good choice. And I'm sure you'll do lots of problem solving for the world in that role as well. Julia, what about you? What are you thinking about down the road?
So earlier this week, I actually committed to my graduate program. So in the fall, I'll actually start my master's in public health with a focus in epidemiology at Columbia University. And when I receive my master's, I will be focusing on molecular epidemiology. So basically how environmental factors like lead to disease and the development of like certain disorders like cancer and stuff like that.
Also an amazing choice. That's fantastic. And making a big impact for all of us. Congratulations on your graduate program to both of you as well. Francheska, what about you? What are you thinking about down the road?
Well, I'll be in a graduate program as well in the fall at Marymount University. It's a Master's of Arts in Forensic Psychology with an intelligence concentration. So I'll be doing that. So I'll still be in the area, maybe about 45 minutes away from USG.
That sounds amazing as well. So, with an intelligence focus in behavioral psychology, really interesting. So you all are amazingly going on to graduate school and going to do great things. I'm so excited for all of you. So excited to see what you do, how you take this energy that you have here, that you demonstrate every day in the ambassador program, and the focus that you bring and the leadership that you bring. I'm so excited to see you apply that and do game-changing things in the world. Jen, what's the future of the ambassador program? Where do you see it going from here?
Only up. I think that every student that wears the red polo leaves a little something in the program, and the program benefits from it. And I would say that in the past year, they've probably left a little something more than in the past because we had to change the whole program. And these students showed a ton of resilience and adaptability. And while obviously we hope to get back to being able to physically show people our campus and give actual campus tours and host in-person events, the benefit of, like Francheska said, being in a breakout room on a Zoom with people that want to study your major, I think that's opened it up to a lot more students that may not have made the time to visit our campus, and allowed more of our ambassadors to connect. And so I definitely want to continue to offer those events, obviously for the benefit of the prospective students. But honestly, I'm always thinking in the back of my head, how can this also benefit ambassadors? How can ambassadors be a part of this? And I have seen some of those connections. The ability for a student to connect one-on-one with an ambassador to make a request. We didn't have that before the pandemic. There's no reason we didn't. We should have. But we've been doing that now. And I think each of these ladies has connected with the prospective student I've sent their way. And that's a wonderful one-on-one, I've made a difference today connection, that I want to continue. And then, like I said, we've increased leadership roles within the program, so that the ambassadors, I don't want them to feel like they're in it for a year and then they've done their job and they're gone. Like, I want students to feel like they're continuously being able to get something out of it, because it benefits me, of course, to have ambassadors like the three of them who've been in the program now for 4 semesters, to stick around. And so giving roles like our ambassador engagement chair, our tour trainer, our social media, or in Ed Love's case, she's our recruitment opportunity chair. So it's another way that ambassadors are able to create opportunities to promote USG to their own personal cohorts, their churches, their formal organizations that they were a part of. So things like that, I've just kind of grown to where I think you mentioned earlier, they're taking more responsibility, and not to just give my role to them, but I think it's been rewarding, seeing that they can handle that, and I hope that it's a resume builder for these students, which I guess a testament is which that they are all getting into excellent graduate school programs. So I hope to continue that and to certainly use what all the work that the students have put in to making the program a success virtually, and to build upon that even when we're back in person again.
Wonderful. Fantastic. Well, I want to thank you all for your time tonight. Thank you for your service to USG and for the great leadership role that you all bring to USG through your ambassador role. Jen, thank you so much for the work you do to support and grow this wonderful program. And as I said earlier, can't wait to see what you all do next. So we're all waiting for great things, and I know that you'll all do very well. So thank you all for your time tonight. Good night.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.